And since we started very positively, we have seen that it has been a kind of connection for majority of classmates that have come together. But this time around, it's not even going to be a connection with your seniors, with your juniors, even with the present students.
All right. A lot of networking being spoken about.
Networking is going to be there.
But please, since you already started, let's set the ball rolling on how the activities will look like. What are the things that you have planned? Maybe I can sneak in and enjoy a bit of it.
Thank you very much. Part of the activities we have, day one is Monday, 2nd February. We want to showcase ourselves along the road to let people know that this school is 80 years. We want to sensitize them that our school is doing very well. That the Old Student Association is having positive impact on our students and in the school, where the communities around benefited. And during the road show, we will walk from our school towards Express and Ile Tuntun side, just for people, along with our students too. On that Monday, we'll be displaying a flyer that to inform them that there's going to be eye screening, free eye screening on Tuesday. We want those that have one problem of eye or the other to come.
Sorry, the screening now, is it just for the whole students as well, or to members of the community?
To the members of the community.
So you are giving back to the community that way as well?
Yes.
Okay.
So if they come and the professionals from Eleta High, if they see that they need more treatment than mere eye drop or drugs or glasses, they will give them referral letter to come to their hospital. At that note, we answer. That will happen on Tuesday, inshallah. And on Wednesday, we plan a career talk for our students. We have invited some professionals among us who will stage their lectures on how students can pick their career. And if you are in science classes, this and this and this are the courses you can offer in a higher institution, so that from there they will know, because some students are in the school, they don't have intention. Even when we were in school, if they ask us, what do you want to be in future? It's either we say doctor, it's either we say lawyer. We don't know more than that. Then we want to expose our children, our students, to so many things that they can achieve, either you be in a science class or commercial or arts. That will happen on Wednesday. And on Thursday, we'll be having inter-house sports.
Oh, beautiful.
It's an annual event. We usually have it on in February, month of our founder. But because this year we are celebrating, we ensure that they work towards it to be along the week of our celebration. So we'll be having inter-house sports on Wednesday. On Monday, after the road show, we'll be having a novelty match between the younger old students and the older one after the road show. So on Friday, we'll be unveiling the statue, as I've mentioned earlier, the statue of our founder, late T.L. Oyeshino. We will unveil it, and some other projects which certain set has done within the premises. And in the afternoon, we'll be observing our Jumat service for Thanksgiving at Ile Tuntun Central Mosque.
You mentioned the late T.L. Oyeshino now.
Yes, sir.
And I know there's a T.L. Oyeshino school somewhere in town. Is there any relation that will bring you guys together?
Principally, there is a relationship. Chief T.L. Oyeshino, T.L. is Timothy Lajide Oyeshino. Is a big contributor to educational advancement, especially in Ibadan. When he was alive, he had, I think, about 6 primary schools, 3 modern schools, and 2 grammar schools. Wow. And these 2 are Ibadan Boys High School, which I believe you will know today, you are aware of, and Ibadan City Academy. These are great schools. So from the story that we heard, in fact, because we visited Olubadan, and Olubadan told us, in fact, Olubadan, the president of Olubadan, that is His Imperial Majesty, also happened to have attended Ibadan Boys High School.
Yeah.
You understand? So they wanted to change the name of Ibadan Boys High School to Chief T.L. Oyeshino Grammar School or Secondary School. So, and that, coincidentally, that was when the president of Olubadan was the governor of Oyo State. So he now said, rather than doing that, he's going to create and establish a secondary school.
In his name?
In his name.
Wow.
So what we want to achieve with changing Ibadan Boys High School to T.L. Oyeshino Grammar School will also be achieved. And I think they say money here or
Monoton.
So we are there. So that's the story almost exactly 3 weeks ago when we visited His Imperial Majesty.
Beautiful.
So that's the connection. So it's the same Chief T.L. Oyeshino.
Okay, so over the years, would you agree with me that today in Nigeria, we have seen the turnaround in our schools from the alumni? They're doing a lot.
Sure.
So tell us, what are the things that your old students have been doing to give the school a facelift and to turn around, improve on what was there when you were there?
Yeah. I think that's the attraction that has brought the old students together, and particularly by the City Academy Old Student Association. Though it had been in existence, but had not been functional until about 9 years ago, I will be exact. That was 2017. And I will describe that year as a kind of a turnaround year and a kind of defined year for Ibadan City Academy. It was a time when we visited. Some said some students, all students visited, and we found that the school was almost run down. And this created a kind of concern for us that, no, this was a school of glory to us. This was a school that produced us. And as God will answer the prayers, most said the kind of mobilization started. So today, and within these 9 years, I can proudly say we've almost renovated all the classrooms in that school. As at the time we started, most of the classrooms didn't have chairs. Even windows, doors, and things like that. So we have done that. Supply chairs, produced chairs for them and desks, renovated the classrooms, even the laboratories as are then, biology, chemistry, physics. In fact, at the point, the school was almost disaccredited by WAEC from offering science subjects, because even trees were almost growing in one of the laboratories. So today, we have very sound laboratories.
Okay, so
libraries too, we have done that. And the staff room was also renovated with these chairs, toilets. So that's why I said, looking back, and that's why the essence of this celebration that we feel proud to celebrate, having even contributed productively to the school.
Okay, let's go to the chairperson of the planning committee.
Yes,
so let's look at you academically. How would you say students from the school, being a public school, your state, how are they doing academically? Are they one of the top schools academically? When you talk about WAEC, you talk about students who finish from there, and looking at some of you who are already adults, grandmothers and grandfathers, do you think the school still carries the whole idea, that the founder, did establish the school for?
Thank you very much, ma. To the best of my knowledge, I know our students are doing their very best. Like 2 years ago, we have about 85% pass from WAEC. Pass at 5 credits, 5 O-level credits. If they are doing bad, we wouldn't have gotten that kind of a percentage from the students. And to the glory of God, immediately they finish their WAEC. Before the school resume, or by the time the school is doing admission, we used to collate number of our students that just left secondary school and that have gotten admission into universities. And the old students used to monitor them, their progress. We used to monitor their progress, one after the other. We have some indigent students within the school that the old students used to handle. That these students, they are brilliant ones, but from their hand, nobody to sponsor them. The old students used to pick some of them and sponsor them into the universities. And during this program as well, we'll be having scholarship awards to some indigent students within the school and to the best students from various sections too. So we are putting things together to ensure that the academics is sound.
Okay. So
Yeah,
now,
just to add to that, I would say that when we intervened, when we started intervention, we are not concerned about the physical appearance alone. And you know, the physical appearance will also translate into improving the teaching and learning environment of the school. So as at the time we started, in fact, the results from prior years indicated that they were not doing well, like you have just said. Yes, she has mentioned the 5 credits of people, but how many of them have English and maths? Almost 0. That was 2015, 2016. But with our intervention, things have started improving. And the way she said, even just recently, the last set of students that passed out in 2025, over 6 of them had gotten admission to the universities. Oh. And today, our own students have provided scholarships for them, for these students.
Okay,
so we are doing that to also encourage, it's not just physical appearance of the school, but also because the output of the school concerns us, what is the quality? Because it's that quality that has impressed us, that has made us what we are today. Okay. And that is what we are concerned about.
Quickly, I'm concerned about a particular part. I know schools back then usually have sports and facilities where they will play and all of that. Is it still in existence? Is it still okay to play on? At least to know,
Very well.
Because you mentioned it
sports. Like my colleague has said, Elijah Shakirat, as part of the activities on Thursday, there will be an inter-house sport.
Everything in the school?
Everything in school. But all students is very instrumental to the resuscitation of inter-house sport in the school. This will be the 4th one consecutive years. They stopped earlier, and we now said, not all of them will be good academically. Yes, we could have some that are lucky, that are good academically and good in sports. But because in our time, we produced, it was a recruitment grant for some sports. Mm-hmm. So we have to resuscitate inter-house sports. So 4 years now, we have been supporting and sponsoring inter-house sport for the school. And they have been very successful. So this year's own is coming up on day 4 of this anniversary, which is Thursday. And also with the support of the students.
Okay, as we wind down the program, in the coming days, what should we expect from the school in the coming days? Just one word, and then we'll call it a wrap.
Emily, we are not relenting. After the anniversary, we are not sleeping. We are continuing with our activities of ensuring that the school return back to glory, of producing high-quality students. And that is our target. That the school will remain one of the best around here, which you used to be in those days. Because by that time, when we were growing up, once you mentioned Badon City Academy, in fact, and when the results of our comes, it's always good news all around. So that's our target, and we surely, by the grace of God, will get there.
Amen. All right, having said that, we want to say a big thank you to you on behalf of our producers and crew members. So let me say, Up School.
Up City.
Of city.
I wanted to be sure you remembered.
Of city.
Yes. All right. We want to say a big thank you to the President General of Ibadan City Academy, Mr. Tunde Akintunde. Thank you very much for coming. Also to appreciate our second guest, Mrs. Shakirat Abiola Yusuf. Of course, she is the Old Student Association's Social and Welfare Secretary and the chairperson of the 80th Anniversary Planning Committee. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thanks so
Thank
much,
you so
ma'am.
much.
And I like the way you're dressed in uniform.
Thank you.
It's good to showcase.
Is to connect with the past.
Yes.
Of course, there are some of their friends here as well. We are acknowledging the presence. I think Mr. Muideen Adebayo is also here with us.
That's our publicity
Secretary of the Ibadan City Academy Old Student Association. We also have Mr. Biodun Akindele, a former student of the school. I hope he's dressed too. There's the socks. And we have, Mrs. Olubumi Oyedemi, a former
I was going to
student.
say that, yes.
But she's not dressed. Where's the uniform?
I'm sure she's dressed.
Okay.
I want to believe she's dressed.
I'm trying to see where she is.
We need to take the pictures, the photographs.
Definitely we will. They'll see that. She's also the director of the News and Current Affairs Department, right here at the Broadcasting Corporation of Oyo State. So yeah, great students.
All right, so of course we go on a break, and when we come back, of course, our second segment of the interview will come on shortly. Stay with us, don't go away.
right. Yes, so we are on to the second conversation that we'll be having this morning on Saturday, especially. It's indeed a special day. And today we're talking about something that concerns everybody in university. And yes, this is cancer awareness. And of course, a lot more people still need to be educated, to be informed about the right things to know. And of course, we have to cancel all the myths that we do not understand and ensure that we come to full understanding of everything that we should know about cancer. And that's why we have this morning experts right there. We have first and foremost Mr. Promise Inyezie, he's the Chief Operating Officer of BREC, and you're welcome this morning.
Thank you for having me.
And I know Dr. Foluke Sarimiye will forgive me this morning, any which way. She is a radiation and a clinical oncologist at the University College Hospital.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome this morning. Now, this is about cancer awareness, different forms of it, everything about it. We want to understand today so that people out there can be more informed and know what to do should they come across this conversation again. So what do you understand by this, and how can you explain it to our people in layman's language so that they also have a grasp of what they need to know about cancer?
Okay. Cancer is a type of disease that occurs in the body, just like any other type of disease, whether it's diabetics or hypertension. Well, cancer has to do with genetic mutations occurring in the cells. That is, we have millions of cells in our bodies, and each of them perform different specific functions, and they receive signals to help them to function. So when the signal is lost due to what we call onslaught, which could be external factors or sometimes internal factors, they begin to misbehave. I always like to explain it this way. If we have a cell A and it's supposed to divide into cell B and C, that's the way normal cells should divide. And all of a sudden, that cell A has an onslaught, something attacks it, and then it begins to divide into X, Y, and Z. And the thing about cancer is that once this happens, it begins to divide uncontrollably and begins to infiltrate and affect other parts of the body. So it doesn't stay where it is. For example, if cancer starts in the breast or it starts in the cervix, if it's not curtailed and it's not taken care of adequately, it begins to infiltrate into other parts of the body. So that's just what makes it very distinct. Unlike compared to other diseases that once you have a disease in a particular place, it stays there in that system. But cancer moves from the primary site to other sites of the body. So that's what makes it different. So it's just an abnormal, uncontrollable division of cells.
Interesting.
Okay, so let me quickly say this, that in 2022, there was approximately 20 million new cancer cases and 9.7 million deaths worldwide. According to reports globally, about 1 in 5 people develop cancer in their lifetime, with 1 in 9 men and 1 in 12 women dying from the disease. Projection indicates that cancer cases will increase to 35 million by 2050 due to population growth. When I was growing up, I'm not saying there was no cancer. There might have been cancer, but it was not, something that people knew about. What was common at that time was malaria, typhoid, worst case scenario. But when we now get to cancer taking charge, 1 in 5 people, 1 in 9 in men, 1 in 12 in women, it means that it has become something that we should pay attention to.
Yes.
Now, let me begin with you, Doctor. How did we get to this point where cancer has taken over? What is the cause of cancer to human beings?
It's always that question is really important, and is a very popular question where people ask that what's the cause of cancer. Cancer is multifactorial. And we usually don't say this is the exact cause of cancer. We talk about risk factors, because it's the risk factors, a combination of all these risk factors, that will increase somebody's likelihood of developing cancer. There's this saying that if an individual lives long enough at this time now, in this where we are right now, the person will develop cancer. If that person lives long enough, we've seen cancer in 80 years, we've seen cancer in 85 years. So that's where we are. So you asked me about that. Why are we having this high statistics of mortality and incidence of cancer? The world, in terms of education and urbanization, is changing. Science keeps evolving, our lifestyle keeps evolving. And we know that different risk factors for having cancer, we have a lifestyle modification lifestyles that we can actually modify, and the ones that we cannot modify in terms of risk factors for cancer. Now, the ones that we can modify in terms of lifestyle, like smoking, our diets, our smoking diet, and all those things that we can modify, is changing. People are more, we have more urbanization going on. We have a lot of things that are depleted. We have the climate change, we have the soil, we have the environments that are polluted as compared to how it was before. So the increased areas or pockets of urbanization that we have has definitely changed lifestyle and changed the environment, whether it's the air, it's the soil, and the food we eat comes from the soil, the air we breathe comes from the environment. All this is much more as compared to the way it was before. So there we're seeing more people coming down with cancer. But another thing I also want to say is that cancer, I think you mentioned, it has also been there, but because of awareness now, some of our great-grandparents might have had it, but because there wasn't awareness, they were just like, when something happened to great-grandma, or something happened to great-grandpa, we don't really know it, or something that had to do with her body, it had to do with maybe his legs, so people might not be able to say. But because there's cancer awareness is increasing now, so people are getting to know. So of course, the more there's awareness, the more diagnosis you're going to see. So we assume that, cancer is now much more. So it's both ways. So.
Right.
Okay, sorry. Let me quickly come to Mr. Promise. Mr. Promise, she just told us about, the causes of cancer, natural, the ones we cannot control and all of that. And she just said that cancer may have been in existence over decades, but we didn't pay attention because we're not aware. At what point did we become aware of cancer? And how come we're unable to control the spread? I'll use the word spread, even though it does not spread, but the increasing number is a spread for us. How come we cannot manage it? But why is it that the causes we're not paying attention to prevent, cancer among us?
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me again today on Saturday Special. She said something very, very important about the fact that cancer has always been there. I was watching a movie recently. I saw these ancient Roman movies, and one of the characters had a disease on her breast. And of course, I'm sure they wrote it to also align with what would have happened then. So they were looking at that she has something, they were looking at, they brought in several physicians and all that. But then, of course, with today's knowledge, that was cancer. That was a breast cancer that she had because it kept on spreading and all that until she died. But they didn't have a name for it that time. And so sometimes they saw it as an affliction from the gods. Something, so instead of a particular point of treatment, they began to do sacrifices. You've offended the Mars, Olympus, and the rest of them, Zeus and the rest of them. So, and that also trickles down to us in Africa as well. It's not the fact that cancer is a new thing. Just like she said, it's just like back then, what we now know as, sickle cell and all that used to be known as Abiku and the rest of them. The child keeps coming and dying. The parents didn't know that it's because both of them are SS or ASS and they keep having children with sickle cell and all that. So it has always been there, but one thing that science has now done is to modify it, make it obvious that this is first and foremost not a spiritual attack or something like that. However, we are still battling with it. And also, on the other part where we talk about spread, just like she also rightfully pointed out, is the fact that lifestyle modifications are also on the increase. Urbanization came with a whole lot of things. And with it is a change in lifestyle. With it, we have modification in the types of food, more chemicals and other harmful materials are injected in food production, things that can alter the normal functioning of the cell. That's why you have lots of risk factors here and there. And within the public health space, we have a lot. The ones we call the modifiable risk factors are basically lifestyle inclined, like smoking, like alcohol intake, obesity, exposure to radiation, and the whole rest of them like that. So these have now also increased, the incidence of, because we've gradually moved from that natural habitation, food and culture and exposure to something more synthetic. But the body system is still the body system. So that reaction might be connected to why we have, increase in the surge. But most importantly is the fact that we now know what we are dealing with. And that's enlightenment is why we can say, the cancer is spreading. It hasn't been there.
Well, let's continue with the enlightenment. What are the myths that you've heard commonly shared amongst the people? What are the things that you see people do about it? You mentioned earlier on the traditional setting where people did not even know what disease it was, but they just went ahead to just sacrifice to the gods anyways. So what are those common beliefs? What are those myths? What are those things that we need to do away with, debunk? And what are the things that we need to let them know?
Okay, so there's quite a lot of them. In fact, before I and Doctor walked into the studio, we were having that discussion out there, and we even realized that even the myth and misconception is not just among the uneducated, even the so-called, literates or the elite, as its case may be, still somehow. And that's why having platforms like this where we create this awareness is important. Of course, one of the very popular myths is ascribing it to, a spiritual attack. It is still very, very rampant. Very, very rampant. Of course, there was a case recently in Anambra State that surfaced on the internet. I've seen quite a lot of cases of breast cancer. I'm not sure I've seen something like that before. The two breasts were at, different stages of decay. One was white, one was totally black, and there were flies all over the place. Now, when this woman was brought out and every other thing, one of the things that happened was that when they were interviewing her, they found that at some point, a spiritualist had told her that, she should not allow her breast to be touched. So she's been rubbing different chalks and all that inside because they saw it as a spiritual attack. I remember a time that someone came to us in Brecan to say, come and convince my landlady to come to hospital. She was battling with breast cancer. A doctor had come to the house, looked at her and said, Mama, this is breast cancer. You need to come to the hospital. But she said no, that it is offer. That's the arrow, right? Mm-hmm. So no matter what everybody told her, she's late now, she refused. And I can give several instances. So that is one major thing. Whether they think it's a spiritual attack from someone they've wronged, or juju or whatever, that's still a misconception. And from what we've known about cancer through research and all that, is a genetic disease. It comes, genetic. Yes. So, and everybody is at risk. That's the truth. We are all mostly sitting down with one or the other. Sometimes you may not know. Because since it's in the cell and we all have, cells that make up the human system, it can misbehave. Every one of us is at risk. That is one. So it is not spiritual. Then we have other misconceptions, such as family history. Somebody will say it's not in my family. So because there's nobody in my family, then it cannot come to me. But then we also have research that's proven that a large percentage of people that are presented with different forms of cancer do not necessarily have a family history of breast cancer. Then you have such myths that it has to do with the size of the breast. Some would say that, oh, my breasts are small, I cannot have breast cancer. It is people that have large mammary glands that can have breast cancer. There is no research to support that. Whether the breast is small or whether it is large, every woman needs to be treated. So there is no correlation with that also. If that is on the aspect of breast cancer. And then you talk about things they will tell you that, well, the things I eat, I'm an African man, I don't take this, I don't take that, and all that. So because of that, I cannot have it because I take agbo regularly, so it spawns off all the cancers in the body and all that. So it is also a misconception. Then you have a lot that has to do with, maybe in case of breast cancer, someone say, okay, use of roll-on, wearing of bra, and so a lady will say, because of that, I want to go braless, because putting on bra, they say it causes breast cancer and all that. These are, there are just a whole lot of them, out there that, time may not permit us to begin to bring them up one after the other. But I think the most common one that leads to more mortality rate is that spiritual, connotation that is attached to the disease.
Because leave it unattended.
Yes.
Doctor, you said quite a lot. And I remember when I was younger, there is this man in my area, quiet, went about his business, but then he passed on. And we saw that he was battling with cancer. Now, I was young, but I felt it wasn't someone who was known to be a smoker, didn't drink, didn't consume, So I thought, why would he have cancer? So now, I'm getting to know that there are different types of cancer. And there are different things that you should do to know yourself very well. I mean, this is someone who, I know he was a widower, but then, we never saw him womanize and all that. So now the question is, what exactly are those risk factors that you think you are safeguarding yourself, but you are not?
Okay, we just talked about modifiable and non-modifiable risk factors for developing cancer. So I think your question is telling towards non-modifiable risk factors, that is what you cannot really control. For example, as a male, as a female, let me start with that. A female can never have prostate cancer because she's not male. And a male can never have cervical cancer because they don't have a cervix. Now, for breast cancer, we know that we could have breast cancer in males because we both have mammary glands. It's just that in females, it's just more developed as compared to males. So that is why males can have breast cancer, even though as compared to females.
So we are clarifying that males as well can have breast cancer.
Oh, definitely. It's not as compared to female cancer, of course. It's just like 1%. But they can because we both have mammary glands. Okay. Now, so I was talking about gender. Gender is a non-modifiable risk factor. As long as you're a male, there's possibility of having any kind of cancer that has to do with the female, male reproductive system. And if you're a female, any form of cancer that has to do with the female reproductive system, that makes it that. Then also, secondly, is the age. Cancer increases with age. That is why if you notice that most of the screenings that are recommended screenings that are available are always above the age of 40, apart from human papillomaviral vaccination that we have now for cervical cancer. But most screening guidelines are for when you turn the age of 40, this is what you need to do to prevent cervical cancer. This is what you need to do to prevent breast cancer. This is what you need to do to prevent prostate cancer. So age is a risk factor that we cannot control. Then, of course, another thing that we cannot control is if that individual has inherited. There's a big difference between saying something is a genetic disease. Cancer is a genetic disease, but it doesn't mean that it is hereditary in everybody. So, but if a particular individual has inherited a mutated gene from their parents, that person might have as an increased risk of having breast cancer. For example, if in the family, the first degree relatives, maybe the aunt had it, about 2 aunties have it, one uncle has breast cancer, 2 aunties have breast cancer, a sibling has breast cancer. So in that family, you've noticed that there seems to be a high risk of having cancer in that family. So individuals in that family would have to go an extra mile to run screenings. They will not have the general recommended screening. For example, if that kind of a case is in the family for a lady, that lady might start screening before the age of 40, just to prevent that. So these are risk factors that you cannot control. What can you do to safeguard is screening. Screening to detect something before you become asymptomatic. Screening is for asymptomatic people, that is before the symptoms even appear. Screening is so important in cancer prevention because the everything one needs, whether in terms of skills, in terms of diagnosis, in terms of investigation, in terms of treatment, in terms of finance, is very different when somebody walks in with a stage 1 cancer and a stage 4. And if that particular cancer is caught early, it's like if somebody has this tiny centimeter of tumor in terms of diameter, and then somebody walks in with this, the amount of treatment and attention that the person will need is much more. When someone is coming with this large size of tumor, somebody is coming with this. So screening would help detect early if something is going on in the body, as compared to somebody who is not, paying attention to screening. And that also has to do with our, culture. We are very adverse to medical screening. It's not even just about cancer screening. Like, there's something wrong with me. Why will I go to the hospital? I'm looking for something. We see it as something even sometimes negative. That is when you go to the hospital, that means you're attracting something negative. We don't see it as if, yes, we're scared of finding out. Okay. Or we see it as if we're attracting something negative. But the truth is that it's not better to know, should in case it's there and it's early, than to pretend that, no, I don't want to go, I don't want to get involved, so that I'm not attracting something evil, or I don't want to know. Whether we want to know or not, if something is there, it's better to address it early so that the outcome is good. So these are things I think we could deal with to reduce developing breast cancer, adhering to recommended screenings, which there are many. I don't know if time will permit us to talk about it.
Okay. Before we go to screen, let me come to Mr. Promise. Mr. Promise, how many types of cancer do we have? I got to a point in my life and I discovered they say there's blood cancer, there's skin cancer.
Yes.
If you're not careful, they'll say there's food cancer. So let's know, so that people can be aware. What type of cancer do we have?
Okay, so technically, I think we have about over 200 types of cancers, or thereabout, yes, because they're talking about the human body. And there's practically cancer for almost every part of the body. So what we mostly focus are, the most commonly occurring ones. I mean, there's cancer of the breast, the cervix, the prostate, the liver, the kidney, the skin, the nose, throat, colorectal, blood cancer, skin. You can mention as many as possible. You understand? So
because we talked about that, a cancer means an abnormal mutation, going on in the cell. So, and we have millions of cells in our body. So anyway, there's a cell in the body, cancer can develop there. The cells that make up tissues make up, systems. So organs and organs make up systems. So wherever you have a cell in an organ, cancer can develop there.
Okay, now let's talk about the symptoms of cancer. You have said they have about 200 or so. Does it mean they have the same symptom? If no, what are the common symptoms of cancer? Response.
Okay, so there are some cancers that, and that's why we talk about screening. And before we even go further, so that I don't forget, in part of screening these days, advancement in science is also bringing some level of certainty, beyond just maybe going for breast or cervical or prostate screen and all that. There's something we call genetic testing now, that especially people with family history, they go for genetic testing, and all the genes of the body is totally checked to be sure that they are free. And what happens in the case of genetic testing is that they can pick the possibility, not even just symptom, that they can pick the possibility of that person coming down due to the presence of certain genes in the body and all that. So there are some cancers that you may, by the time you find out, about the symptoms, they've already been on, advanced stage. But there are some basic ones that we can easily find out. For instance, when it comes to breast cancer, we start looking at early symptoms such as maybe a lump in the breast. It could be a very tiny lump. It could be nipple retraction or inversion. It could be a change in the skin. It could be a dimpling. It could be a pain that refuses to go away. It could be nipple discharge and the rest of them. And you can only find out this by first and foremost doing your, monthly breast examination or going for mammogram and the rest of them. Then, for the cervical cancer, which is also another very common among women, it could be when you have maybe pain during sex, discharge, and all that, painful intercourse, there's discharge in the, vagina, and the rest of them. So that one also, that's why we also recommend screening at that stage as well. But you also have prostate in men, which you can also maybe burning sensation during urination, or you keep urinating frequency of, urinating frequently and all that. So, and there are lots of symptoms. I can say that our time is going up, so I can list it. But however, these are the very common ones. But there are some ones like, maybe liver cancer or cancer of the blood and other that the symptoms are not so pronounced, and that's why screening and regular medical checkup is very, very important.
Okay. We'll
Can I?
Okay. You're going to do that. We're going to break. When we come back, of course, you're going to speak, about the symptoms again, and then we'll also look at the kind of testing that can be done, how often this test should be done, and how can we manage. And majorly, I think we should also talk about mammogram, the effects of mammogram alone. The cost is scary for people. But we'll go on a break. We'll be right back. Stay with us. We're still Saturday special.
Thank you very much for sticking around with us. We are still talking about cancer awareness. And yes, Doctor was about to add to what Mr. Promise had said earlier on about the symptoms.
Okay, so in addition to what Mr. Promise had said, that we earlier talked about that cancer can occur anywhere in the body. So wherever you have an organ, that's where the symptoms would. For example, if cancer wants to occur in the eye, we start noticing changes in the eye. If it's in the nose, you notice, okay, having recurrent, maybe rhinitis. If it's in the mouth, you notice you cannot swallow as much as before. So wherever the organ is in the body, the symptoms will show up. Now, while I'm talking about symptoms, the fact that that's the organ doesn't mean that it's definitely going to be cancer. If there's an issue with maybe the nose, maybe having recurrent rhinitis, or there's an issue in terms of swallowing, or there's an issue in terms of coughing, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to turn out to be lung cancer, it's going to turn out to be cancer of the nasopharynx, or it's going to turn out to be cancer in the eye. But symptoms occur from where the organ is affected. So that is the kind of symptoms you would have. So, and as I said, if it's now other parts of the body, whether it's the breast, it's the cervix, it's the prostate, whatever part of the body is, you see abnormal symptoms. The key is this: symptoms that persist after you have taken over-the-counter pain relievers, over-the-counter antibiotics, which is not right, but I know most of our people do. Over-the-counter antibiotics, self-medication. If for 2 weeks, I don't even like to even say for 2 weeks, because anything could happen. You've noticed that you've taken this medication, quote unquote, for 1 week, and you're still having the diarrhea, or you're still having the constipation, because we also have colorectal cancer on the increase, or you're still seeing a bit of bleeding when you sneeze, please see a doctor. Or you're still having the headaches despite the aspirins and the paracetamols you've taken. Symptoms that persist after a week, please see a doctor, because it could be any form of ailment, and early stages of any form of ailment is always better.
Okay, let's quickly go to testing, and I'd like also to talk about mammogram too. Okay. Of course, mammogram seems to be one of the measures to help. Am I right?
Yes.
To help patients living with
breast
cancer.
Okay.
Yes, and maybe it's breast cancer. I think breast cancer. Now, I'd like you to tell us, how often should one get tested before developing cancer? And when one undergoes test and you discover what should be done, and then we'll come back to mammogram.
So that's mammogram. Okay, so I would like to start this way. Because there are several types of cancers, you cannot have screening for every type of cancer. But there are major types of cancers that occur mostly in men and in women. So those are the type of screening guidelines I will talk about quickly. So we have screening guidelines for breast cancer. We have screening guidelines for prostate cancer. We have screening guidelines for cervical cancer. And we have screening guidelines for colorectal cancer. And then we also have for lung cancer. It's not really as common as it is in the global north, but we still have some pockets of people coming down with lung cancer. So breast cancer now. The recommended screening for breast cancer is mammogram. When a lady clocks 40, it's so important. Besides the monthly breast examination the lady has been doing since the lady would have started a menstruation, besides the clinical breast examination that she ought to start when she's around 20, the clinical breast examination means that you go to the healthcare facility and then the healthcare professional examines the breast for you. You do that till you get to 40 years old. But when you get to 40, in addition to the monthly breast examination, that lady must start mammogram. And the good thing about mammogram is this: mammogram can actually show if there is a lump, at least, according to research, it's 2 years before that lady feels the lump. So you can imagine if a lady is doing monthly breast examination, but gets to the age of 40, the mammogram will pick it up even before she feels it. And like I said, the earlier diagnosis, the better the treatment outcome, the clinical outcome. So mammogram is very important for ladies by the age of 40. However, he talked about genetic screening for families that they have an high risk, identified that they have an high risk of breast cancer because of they've done some genetic testing which shows that they do have mutated BRCA genes. Those families will start breast cancer screening much earlier, like from the age of 35, and then other options are available like prophylactic bilateral mastectomy, which we know this popular actress did, Angela Jolie. She went for a genetic testing. Her grandmother had it, her mother had breast cancer, and then she tested herself earlier and noticed that she inherited that particular mutated genes, and then she went for a prophylactic mastectomy before, because she knows that in future she's going to have breast cancer. So for those for those high-risk people, group of people, they would have that earlier. But general population, 40 years and above, ladies, please go for screening once you're 40 years old. Now, for male, we advise that they should have their PSA done, which is the blood test, once they're 40, 45 years old. From 40 to 45 is still okay. Now, the blood test would identify if it's high or it's low, and then other particular tests will be done more to really clarify if this is prostate cancer or not, because a high PSA doesn't automatically mean that it is a prostate cancer. But if you don't do it, you don't check. If we don't check, how would we know that the levels are rising? And for cervical cancer, which is the the important one right now, because cervical cancer, we talk about risk factors for cancer, but for cervical cancer, we talk about prevention, because cervical cancer can be prevented. Cervical cancer is the one main cancer that oncologists can beat with their chest and say no woman in 2026 should have cervical cancer. No woman. Why? Because it is so preventable. So because now the cause of cervical cancer is persistent infection with high risk human papillomavirus. So when this persists for a while and it doesn't go away, it should go away. Most ladies will have this infection, but it naturally goes through a course and it goes away. But when it's persistent and it doesn't go away, it begins to change the tissue of the cervix, and they might now go on to cause cervical cancer. But this transformation takes about 10 to 15 years. So before somebody comes down with cervical cancer, with HPV, it takes that year. So that is why screening is introduced. So before, if a lady is doing screening, the lady will be able to identify that, oh, the cervix is changing. So within that window, things can be done. So that is why pap smear is very important for ladies who are already sexually exposed. Okay, so before the 25 years, we have the human papilloma vaccination for young girls and for young boys, if the family wants that. From 9 to 26, for the young ladies, they can get vaccinated, and then for boys from 9 to 21. There are vaccines available in healthcare centers, which can provide this for children within that age group. But it doesn't mean that because you are vaccinated, you would not continue your pap smear screening even afterwards. Okay. So
thank you very much.
I didn't finish with cervical cancer. So it goes on to 65 years old. So when the lady is 65, if in the last 10 years her pap smear results have been negative, she can stop doing pap smear, that's the cervical screening. But if for any reason that wasn't negative, the lady must continue doing it. Okay. And the pap smear is just once in 3 years. Just once in 3 years. So if you do it 2026 now to 2029, before the lady would have another pap smear done. Okay. And there are other sophisticated ones, if it's affordable, what we call co-testing. That is once in 5 years. So I know our time is up.
Yes. Doctor, let me come to Mr. Promise quickly. Okay. Mr. Promise, you agree with me that the World Cancer Day is observed every February 4th, and that's why we're doing this, to create awareness, talk about prevention and all of that. But quickly, as we wrap up, two things. One would have thought that in the age where we have health insurance program, this testing should have been part of the program. I think that should be our campaign, part of our campaign this year. That for people who have insurance scheme, the hospital should make it as part of, if you go for a vital signs, also more like a vital sign, you do these checks from time to time. That's one. Then two, the issue of chemotherapy. It seemed like the effect of chemo kills people earlier than even the cancer itself. It might be a myth.
I totally disagree.
Okay, so quickly.
So the chemo aspect, I'll actually leave it for Dr. Foluke to answer. But however, let me also chip in, because she was talking about, the HPV, virus for cervical cancer. And I also think we are not also publicizing it enough. That's currently HPV vaccine that's available for children between the ages of 9 and 14. And it's so readily available in all the PHCs in the state. That parents should take their young girls to the nearest primary health care center to get them vaccinated for human papillomavirus. Just get there, say you want to do HPV, take the HPV vaccine. Once you have a daughter between the age of 9 and 14, at least for now, that's available for them. Now, talking about, you may talk about screening, right?
Yes.
As part of insurance policy. So it's part of the ongoing discussions. And I know that there are some private insurance packages that actually cover that. But what we are trying to now bring on board is to be sure that the National Health Insurance Scheme also takes that, takes care of that, which I cannot say for now. I don't have that information to say if it covers that totally. But beyond screening I can also point out to you that unlike, we think these screenings are very, very expensive like that. They're not really as expensive, especially when you have to do something every 3 years. In the case of pap smear and all that. And for mammogram, it's practically like once in a year. It's not as expensive as, we pretend it to be. However, it's the fact that we do not have that culture. And I think we need to speak to that culture of seeking health information and improving our health-seeking behavior.
Maybe just one word about chemo.
I really wish we had more time because anyway, we cannot but I hope that what we've said so far has really opened, somebody's eyes to take the right steps to seek, even if it's just screening the head today, that would be very good. I really wish we could talk much more about screening because we have colorectal cancer screening and other things that even childhood cancers, what parents need to look out for in children. There's so much to talk about for what cancer day, and I think we need to shed more light on that a lot too. When about concerning chemotherapy, quickly before we go, that's another big myth that needs to be debunked. Chemotherapy does not kill people. Chemotherapy is a systemic therapy that is given as a form of infusion, and it goes into all the cells on the body. And why it's important is because it's not a local treatment that should, in case that cancer is moved from the primary site, that we cannot see now because we have what we call occult metastasis, that we might not see. That systemic therapy goes to every part of the cell just to fight the cancer. So chemotherapy does not kill. Yes, it has some overwhelming side effects, but there are precautions we take, the medications we take before and after to make sure that the patient goes, that the chemotherapy doesn't overwhelm the person. And most of the side effects often, resolve after a while, and particularly after the process is over. So it is doesn't kill, please, whether it helps.
It would be unfair to not talk about the people who should understand something about people who have been diagnosed with cancer.
Yes.
One word quickly for them, supports, what they need to understand so that they would do the best.